Okay, please take your seats, and we are going to continue with our next session in the Red Room. Anonymity is king. I think we are going to dive into the deep web or something like that. I always like to do that myself. Anyway, let's see what Michael John Marcus and Anthony Joe Melgarejo is going to say to you. Go ahead, please.
Hello? Can you hear me clearly? Okay. So, being anonymous. Everyone wants to be anonymous at some point in our lives. It is a state where one can do anything without fear and doubt. A good playwright, Oscar Wilde, once said, "A man is least himself when he talks in his own person, but give him a mask, and he will tell you the truth." In the context of cybercrime, being anonymous means being untraceable, and that's what every cybercriminal strives for. Just imagine what cybercriminals can do when they know they are protected. So good morning. So this presentation is called Anonymity is King. So my name is Michael John Marcos, and with me is my colleague, Anthony Joe Melgarejo. We're both threat research engineers from Trend Micro. And today, we're going to talk about how cybercriminals are starting to rely on deep web to evade attribution. So first, let's define what is deep web. So deep web is part of the internet that is inaccessible to conventional search engines. So this is the part of the web that is unindexed and uses a special kind of technology to be able to connect to its network. So what is this talk all about? So first, we'll discuss what are the reasons on the shift of cybercriminals to the deep web. Second is how do cybercriminals use different deep web technologies in their cybercrime operations. Number 3 is what can we do to investigate as security professionals. So we'll share some artifacts that we can get from compromised machines. And finally, our conclusion and prediction on how cybercriminals perceive deep web in the future. So let's start. So how it all began. So it began in this picture. So this is a typical botnet structure. So this is a star topology. So in this structure, there exists a central node that acts as a command and control server of all the infected machines. So in here. So given this setup, once we reverse the malware and we identify the CNC URL, we can have an action to take it down. So given this, the whole botnet operation is disrupted. So another example of a botnet topology is the multi-server. So comparing to the previous slides, there are 2 or more CNC servers that serve as fail-safe servers in case the main CNC server has been identified. But then again, once you identified all the CNC servers, it can be taken down as well. So there are other known topologies like peer-to-peer and hierarchical, but this can be countered by the following techniques. So number 1 is the usual is the sinkholing the domains or the malicious domains. Another is by cleaning up the compromised sites that acts as a CNC server. Number 3 is by blocking the malicious URLs by the AV vendors or the internet service providers. And number 4 is by disconnecting the bot network from the autonomous systems. So given the risk of using the topologies that I've discussed, over the past couple of years, there's been several takedowns happening around the globe. So here are some of the examples. So number 1 is the takedown of the Shylock Trojan, which happened in 2013. Another takedown is the takedown of Citadel botnet. So this is a modified version of botnet, or modified version of Zeus. And one of the most recent takedowns is the takedown of the CryptoLocker ransomware. So given the risk of takedowns, cybercriminals began their research on how to achieve true anonymity to evade attribution. And this is what they found: technologies that can potentially make them invisible. So what are the factors that affect cybercriminals to shift to the deep web technology? So number one, deep web is encrypted. So technically they are in layered encryption. So this is one example. So this is an onion routing encryption. So with this, deep web encrypts all of its data into multiple layers with only the encryption key and the IP address known at each hop. So given this, the malicious traffic and the legitimate traffic is difficult to distinguish, as well as tracing the original source and the final destination. So another advantage is that deep web offers deception. So it's possible for a user or a cybercriminal to create an infinite number of domains, provided it can be supported by the server payload or the bandwidth. So given this, in a security perspective, it creates an illusion for the cybercriminal in appearing as a larger bot network, when in fact it's just using 2 or 3 CNC servers for their operations. It also presents additional work for us in the AV industry because in blocking these malicious URLs. So, and third advantage that we found is that deep web offers resilience and high availability. So deep web domains can be generated in the system and is reusable. So unlike the usual domain names, deep web domains is unregulated, and cybercriminals have the liberty to control them. So setting up fail-safe servers in case of power outages, such as this one, and migrating CNC servers from one location to another can be easily done through deep web. So now that we know the advantages, so I'll turn you over to Anjo to discuss further the different deep web technologies and how cybercriminals use them.
All right. So thank you, Michael. So first, I'm going to discuss to you the different deep web technologies. I know that most of you are familiar with this, so this will just be a refresher. And after each technology, I'm going to give an example of a malware that uses that deep web technology. So first will be Tor, or the onion router. So, sorry. Before using Tor, it must be first installed in the system, the Tor browser, the Tor client. Then to anonymously contact a remote server, it will first need to contact the directory server, where it will obtain the list of available Tor nodes. So these Tor nodes is where the Tor client will relay the data, and in each hop, the data is decrypted with different keys, just like peeling the layers of an onion. So from the last node, the data will be unencrypted with Tor encryption. So also, we all know that Tor offers hidden services or anonymous web servers. So for a hidden service to be registered to the Tor database, it will first need to randomly select 3 introductory points from the available Tor nodes, then send this info together with its public key. The public key will be used for its onion URL, so to the distributed hash table. The Tor client or the user, given that he knows the public key of the hidden service, he will then look up the public key and get the introductory points. So before contacting the hidden service, the Tor client will first randomly select a rendezvous point and send to the hidden service through one of the introductory points a one-time secret, which is the cookie in the diagram, and the rendezvous point. So once the hidden service receives that info, the hidden service will then send the one-time secret to the rendezvous point, and then the rendezvous point will authenticate this one-time secret. Once it is authenticated, the Tor client and the hidden service can anonymously communicate with each other. So in January of last year, we encountered a new version of Zeus, which is Kins. So during static analysis of Kins, we have found that there are 2 other executables embedded in it. So the other 2 is its 64-bit version, and the other one is its Tor executable. So during the installation and execution of keys, it will first inject itself to explorer.exe. So after the injection, it will download its config file from a CNC server located in the Tor network. Then it will launch the Tor executable, which is embedded in it, using a method called process hallowing to svchost.exe. So based on the parameters during the execution of svchost, you can see that Keynes wants to launch a Tor hidden service. So the hidden service dir parameter just specifies where the Tor configuration files will be dropped. Then the hidden service port contains the virtual port, which are 1080 and 5900 in this example, which the virtual ports will be the ports that the users connecting to the hidden service think they are connecting to. But in reality, the communications are redirected to the redirection ports, which are 23318 and 26824. So Tor it will drop the configuration file to the system. Now Keynes can listen to the redirection ports. So this behavior can now open the system to further attacks like backdoor connections. So before we proceed to the next deep web technology, let's just take note that Tor requires it requires the installation of the Tor browser or the Tor client. So proceeding with Tor to Web, Tor to Web allows the users to access a Tor hidden service without installing the Tor browser. So just to use Tor to Web, so in this example, we have the onion URL with the .onion TLD. And we will just replace the .onion with the following examples, which are tor2web.org, onion.to, so on and so forth. So these Tor2web gateways are many, and they are maintained by volunteering organizations and individuals. So an example of a malware that uses Tor2web is CTB-Locker or CryptCTB. So CTB stands for curve, or the elliptic curve Diffie-Hellman encryption algorithm, since CTB-Locker is a ransomware. And next, T stands for Tor, since it uses Tor or Tor2web as its CNC server and its payment site. Then B it stands for Bitcoin, since it is the preferred mode of payment for the ransom. So once CTB-Locker is installed and executed in the system, it will inject itself to explorer.exe and svchost.exe, and then it will proceed with its file encryption routine. So after encrypting the targeted files, it will send the encryption key that it used to the CNC server hosted in Tor via the Tor2web network. So then it will display the ransom note. The ransom note will display info like the public key, which is the identifier of the victim, the Bitcoin address where the ransom can be sent to, and the payment site where you can make the transaction. So once the user visits the payment site, he will be displayed with this page. So it will require him or her to enter the public key, which is in the ransom note. Then once it is entered, he will be redirected to the actual payment site, where it just contains more information on how to acquire Bitcoins and how to finish the transaction. So at the bottom of the page, you will just see that it offers also a free decryption service, just to prove that it can really decrypt the encrypted files. So sometimes Tor2web gateway administrators block access to these malicious URLs. So CTB-Locker has a counterattack for this. In the next slide, you can see that it has a list of other Tor2web gateways that it can use. So what are the advantages of using Tor2web? So first advantage is it doesn't require the installation of the Tor browser. So security policies like blocking the installation of Tor will be bypassed. And the inbound and outbound network traffic to and from the Tor2web gateway is normal. So IDS rules will not be able to detect malicious Tor traffic. And of course, there are multiple Tor2web gateways available. So malware can just use as they can. OK, so proceeding to I2P. So I2P is works similarly like Tor, but it is somehow more complex. So if let's say a client and a web server, another thing, I2P requires communications within the I2P network. So if, let's say, a client and a web server wants to join the I2P network, they must also install first the I2P router. And then once installed, the routers will select randomly from the network database some other routers, which they will use as tunnels. So let's say the client wants to send an HTTP request to the web server. The client router will bundle the HTTP request with other messages. So this will be like the cloves of a garlic. That's why I2P is called garlic routing as opposed to the onion routing. So, and then it will send it to the server router via those tunnels. And take note that along the way, the data is also decrypted. And then the server router will just separate the bundles of the globes of the garlic message and send them to their actual destinations. So an example of the malware that uses I2P is Dire, just as discussed earlier. So since the Zeus takedown, Dire came up to the spotlight as the new online banking Trojan. So it also performs web injects to steal online banking credentials by injecting malicious scripts to the following web browsers, which is Firefox, Chrome, IE. So its other capabilities is it can send the NAT status of the system, send some general system information, and download other modules, like the I2P module and the VNC module, which can also open up the system for other backdoor connections. It can also download this configuration file and send a browser snapshot. So these capabilities happen, like the sending and the uploading and the downloading of the files will happen via the I2P, as shown in the screenshot. But since the threat actors are aware of the complexity of use of I2P, they have a fail-safe or a backup plan, so they also use domain generation algorithm. Okay, so for the more use cases of deep web malware, I'm going to turn you over again to Michael.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'll discuss the use cases that we've found for deep web by cybercriminals to help their cybercrime operation. So number one, they use deep web as a ransomware support portal. So an example of a malware that uses this is ScriptVault. So it's a crypto ransomware. So it's a ransomware that targets Russia and its neighboring countries. So this malware communicates with its victim via a support portal hosted in a Tor or an Onion domain. So after the encryption of user files, this malware drops a ransom note, and as shown here, so it's written in Russian. So included in the ransom note is the support portal URL and the key file. So the key file is also generated once the malware is executed in the system. So it also includes instruction on how to access or get to the support portal. So on this one, it said that it requires the user to get a Tor web browser to be able to connect to the support portal URL. So once inside the support portal URL, the malware will request the victim to upload the key file. So this will give the victim an account to the support portal. So once inside, so as you can see, the support portal URL is in here. So once inside, the cybercriminals will entertain the victim via chat support. So as you can see, it is considered as one of the advanced, or we can see on this picture that they are a large enterprise because they have a working chat support. So it's very uncommon. So next is as command and control server. So this is one of the common uses of deep web by cybercriminals. So in this particular example, this is Slempo. So Slempo is an Android backdoor malware. So this malware is Trojanized or a modified version of Orbot. So for those of you who don't know Orbot, So Orbot is created for an application created for Android phones to be able to connect to the Tor network. So decompiling the APK file of Slempo, we can see that some of its capabilities. So the backdoor command works like this. So the cybercriminal will text the infected phone for the backdoor commands to trigger. So one of the common capabilities is the interception and monitoring of the text messages, the sending of the infected phone's location, and the sending of system info. So looking at the network-related scripts, so we can see that once the phone is infected, it will send the stolen information shown here to this website. So this is the part where the malware perform a callback communication to the threat actor. So another use case that we found is as hosting server for malware. So we've seen a malware family named Janitor. So just in the first quarter of 2015. So this is a downloader malware. So it arrives in the system via a spam mail. So once executed, it tries to download Votrack via a Tor2Web URL. So as discussed by Anthony a while ago, Tor2Web URLs are regulated by a different entity. So the blocking of the URLs is high. So that's why the threat actors opt to use multiple Tor2Web URLs as backup. So given the use case and the implementation of cybercriminals, so what can we do to investigate? So when responding to a case and we see that there is suspicious deep web activity, so good places to look into, or the first priority to look into would be the following. So number one is the command line argument log. So next is the installed files and folder. Third is the prefetch files, and fourth is the network traffic. So command line arguments. So command line arguments can give you an idea how the malware use deep web in the system. So for this one, this is taken from a compromised machine that is infected by CBOT, or the KINS variant. So as you can see, we can flag three things here. So number one, based on the argument hidden service dir, hidden service port, we can identify that this is Tor setting up a hidden service. Number two, we can identify that the Tor executable was renamed to svchost.exe and resided in the system folder. And third, after the hidden service there, we can see the file path. So this can be a file path of interest to be further analyzed. Okay. So another, sorry. So next is the installed files and folder. So Tor and I2P is usually downloaded or bundled by the malware. So for it to work, it needs to reside in the system. So first, we need to identify which location it resides, and then once we identify that, we can get several information, like by checking the timestamps, we can get an idea when was it installed, when was it last used, and other information like if generated deep web domain was, if there is a deep web domain generated in the system. So this is one example. So in the state file, we can see the version and when was Tor last used by the system. So now that we know that the Tor executable from the command line argument log is svchost, so we try to parse the prefetch file of svchost. So parsing the prefetch file of svchost, we can see that there are several information that we can get from this. Number one is the libraries that were loaded by the process of the Tor executable. Number two, when how many times it was run in the system. And number three is the timestamps again. So the installation and when was it last used. So cross-referencing the timestamps of the installed files and folder of deep web-related files plus these prefetch files can give you an idea or can add credibility if you're making an incident response report. So last is network traffic logs. So for network traffic logs, just have to look to it to because I2P and Tor have unique network patterns. So we have to look for that patterns using search tools. Okay, so what do you think will be the next step of cybercriminals? So we think that cybercriminals will continue to use deep web. So given the advantages it presents that we discussed a while ago, it will still be considered as one of the effective ways to evade attribution. So as shown in the next slide, so over the past couple of years, there's been a steady increase in the number of malwares using deep web technology. So interestingly, the moment we submit the paper in this conference, up to today, 6 new ransomwares are using the deep web technology. So where are we heading? So given this increase in the number of malware families using deep web, so we believe that we're heading to the early majority phase of the innovation adoption cycle of the deep web technology. So given this, our point is more cybercriminals will be attracted to deep web in the coming years. So what do we need to do? So we need to be one step ahead against cybercriminals. So planning and testing attack scenarios involving deep web malware will help us understand how they do things. So we also predict that the only arrival vectors of the Tor executable or the I2P executable is only embedded and downloaded. So we believe that soon after it will be fileless. So the power of anonymity is, can always give cybercriminals an upper hand. So it's up to us whether we proactively act on it. So that concludes our presentation. So thank you.
Nice presentation. We have time for 1 or 2 questions, I think. So, any questions?
Thank you for the great presentation. Oh, sorry, bit loud. So the question is that for corporate, there's no use for deep web. What will the malware do if I have blocked access to Onion and I2P? Will it still encrypt files, and will it mean that there's no way to recover those files?
Well, of course, if you will block access to the store to web and so on, yeah, I think it will be really an effective countermeasure. But we're not sure if there will be a zero-day exploit for that kind of countermeasure. Thank you.
So, any other question in the back, I think? No questions anymore? Okay, let's thank together Michael and Anthony.